Actually, now that I think about it, it actually makes sense to have like the high US tariff because of because like if you understand basic economics, it actually makes sense like when I was young my mother used to tell me that things that are imported overseas they are more expensive than local stuff because like you, imported stuff they have to travel a long distance so there will be shipping costs, there will be logistic costs then there will be like various like insurance costs just because of the logistic, the difficulty of transporting like goods over a longer distance, right? Yeah, so compared to domestic goods are produced within the country so the shipping cost, the transport cost is much lower so it makes sense for local stuff to be cheaper than overseas stuff yeah, especially in the context of USA. Yeah, the only time you should remove tariff is when the country has a very high shortage of natural resources. For example, Singapore, because Singapore is a very small country, right? So we don't have like those large farmlands. We don't have large farmlands that can produce our own like animals or crops So that's why we have to have like minimal tariffs because it's cheaper for us to get goods from overseas rather than produce inside our country. Whereas US is different. US is a super large country so US has those large farmlands and a lot of basically US can have very high like domestic production so you also benefit the people there because like it makes sense. For example, like in Singapore we have the Choa Chu Kang farm, right? So it makes sense for me to buy chicken egg at a cheaper rate from Choa Chu Kang farm compared to overseas like import or compared to the eggs that are imported overseas, right? It makes sense because the logistic cost between like Choa Chu Kang farm and my house is very low compared to like the overseas, like the shipping cost that you need to incur when importing overseas items so it like that's why I say it makes sense because like what my mother said. My mother, when I was small, my mother told me that imported items are more expensive compared to domestic stuff so like I say, it makes sense because of the high shipping costs and all this yeah. So US is a very big country, so US can afford to if the US focus on domestic production, it can afford to like feed its people with domestic stuff rather than relying on overseas import yeah, which can also be unfair for the local farmer as well so I think protectionism works well in the US case because it's a very big country